Greetings to all of you, and I'll say it's great to meet all of you in these unprecedented times where we can't actually meet physically, but thanks to technology that we've been able to do this. My name is Dr. Raphael Kinoti. I am the Regional Director at Isbrooke East Africa. Isbrooke is an international entity that does animal welfare, and in the next 2 slides or so I should be able to tell you what we do. Just a brief introduction to Isbrooke and what we do. Isbrooke is an animal welfare organization founded in 1930. We work in a good number of areas in the world, but then our work is to transform the lives of vulnerable working donkeys, horses, and mules by relieving their immediate suffering and creating lasting change. And so then we do this by working with communities in community engagement in terms of what they do, but then enabling that it will be animal welfare sensitive. But then we also work in terms of strengthening animal health infrastructure to ensure that the draft animal is able to access good care. We also do advocacy mainly to ensure that governments put in nice, good policies. Friends, just as we get into thinking about draft animals, I thought we needed to just make a small sneak preview of generally what animals we're talking about, and kindly know that I'll really target East Africa. Horses, mules, camels, oxen, donkeys, you'll find them almost everywhere, every village, in some of the most remote areas, really helping communities to transform their lives. SDG 1 talks about no poverty. I want to cite a research by Kenya Agriculture Research and Livestock Organization that told us that actually donkeys in Kenya, then estimated at around 1.8 million, and the country 28 billion Kenya shillings every year. But then when that was cascaded down, it brought a number of USD $12 every day for a donkey for a household. And this is basically in terms of these donkeys doing commercial work. But then on the other side, these donkeys being involved in livelihood services, probably transportation of goods and plowing and all that, and saving that household money that really then goes into uplifting them out of poverty. Strategic development goal number 2 talks of zero hunger in the world. The Committee on World Food Security in 2016 recognized the contribution of working livestock to food security and nutrition. And you can actually understand why such a high-level committee recognized these animals. You see draft animals in soil tillage. You see them in transportation of feed and water to the rest of the livestock. Actually, their own manure is used as fertilizer, transporting goods to the market, farm inputs, fertilizers, or whatever it is, getting food stuff to the market, food accessibility. I think we already alluded to that. So these animals are critical in the whole infrastructure of the food security. And then now you can see how really they contribute directly to zero hunger in the world. I know I'd already alluded to this on these animals actually helping communities to do good health. I have seen a lot of these draft animals now used in mobile clinics among the pastoralists in the world. So then, if you look at the well-being, the animal will deliver medical supplies. The animal also earn money to help the household actually pay their medical bills. Or even in some hard to reach areas, you find the animals themselves transporting the sick people. Actually, not one, not two places, they'll tell you it is this donkey that delivers our sick people, our pregnant mothers, or whoever to a health center that could be 20, 30 kilometers away. And so then, when you look at good health and well-being, the donkey and indeed all the other draft animals are the middle of it. Now, in terms of education, quality education, which is SDG 4, I think we've already seen that donkeys bring in income, or other draft animals bring in income that can pay for education. But then also, one of the most critical, actually what I always see as one of the greatest impacts for these animals, is that they remove the load off the back of a child. Most of the chores that donkeys do, and like in Africa with areas that are really water strained, children will leave school and go for water if there is no donkey that is doing the water. And so then the animal comes in, takes up that burden, relieves it from the kid, and the kid is able to go to school. That is one of the things I see as one of the greatest impacts in terms of the donkey contributing to this SDG 4. Now, I know I have alluded to this in the past in my previous slides, but then when you get to rural communities, and I would say mainly to communities that are in arid, semi-arid lands, women will almost own nothing. We did a survey a couple of years ago, and we realized that actually 75% of donkeys that we work with in East Africa are used by women. And so then you can imagine that actually these animals are completely embedded to the lifestyle of women simply because they are the ones that really assist. They do the same chores that women do, whether going for water or going, to transport an item here and there, even carrying babies on their backs. And so donkeys really contribute to gender equality. In most of the pastoralist communities, we've seen actually that a donkey is almost the only animal that a woman can own and say, this is mine. And so giving them, a lot of dignity. And so we see draft animals as directly contributing to gender equality. This is not new. I have already talked about this. Clean water and sanitation, SDG 6. That actually we're in a water scarce part of the world. Actually, you stop donkeys from supplying water in some of the localities in Africa, then those communities will go without water. And so then let me not belabor the point here. We've already talked about this. When we come to SDG 13, which is climate action, the donkey is the epitome of resilience amongst communities. In terms of his own morphology, in terms of the way its body is made, is a resilient animal. And so then you find that it injects resilience in livelihoods in a way that no any other animal actually is able to do that. When all other animals are not able to find enough food or other feed for themselves and water and all these animals can survive without that for long, And hence, when there are prolonged droughts, long distances to be traveled, donkeys, and actually even camels and a number of other draft animals are able really to give the communities that seriously needed resilience that helps them in terms of bouncing back even after serious calamities. I know over the last number of slides, we've really talked about how these draft animals are important to the livelihoods of communities. Now, the one elephant in the room is that actually we are losing this resource. The numbers are decreasing, and in some of the species, like the donkey, the numbers are actually collapsing. I'll give a few examples, as you can see on the slide. Over the last 10 years, Kenya has lost almost a third of its population. China, between 1992 and 2017, lost over half of the population. But then you can begin talking about other countries. Kyrgyzstan has lost 53% of their donkeys in a decade plus. Botswana, 37%, Brazil, 28%. But what is happening? Donkey slaughter, fuel, of course, by Chinese local medicine that has established slaughterhouses all over, and that is collapsing the numbers because then the offtake is not equal to the reproductive numbers, the regeneration of the species. And so then communities that use the donkeys in the ways I've shown up there are really finding it difficult. And like in Kenya, actually last year, communities had to come in and demonstrate and force the government to close the forced slaughterhouses that we were having here in Kenya. And so then this is a huge threat that is decimating the numbers, but then also pushing community members into poverty based on what we've said. And so then probably in the way forward that is in the next slide, we'll be asking ourselves, what do we do? Friends, I want to conclude by saying actually that, you know what? Working animals or draft animals cannot change their own welfare, but people can change the welfare of working animals. Some of these animals, actually, one of the things I haven't said is that some of them are really, really critical in their local cultures. You go to some local cultures and these animals are completely embedded. So that cultural heritage thing we haven't really talked about. But then you uplift the welfare of these working animals, you're also turning around livelihoods for millions of humans. And so, just concluding with 3 recommendations. We must all join hands to stop the unsustainable slaughter. And this, I mean both legal and illegal, because we've seen some of what we are calling legal slaughter, for example, for donkeys, is not sustainable and is injurious to communities. Governments must join hands together and other actors to develop and implement working animal-friendly policies and legislations. To some of the governments, actually, it's just recognizing that this is a resource that we have. But then finally, most of these things we've seen can't happen without advocacy. And so we can have advocacy from local level to national to international levels, and especially to change the infrastructure that begins to accommodate this huge resource that the world has for our heritage. Thank you. Thank you. Friends, I think I'll end it there, and thank you so much for listening.